I'm going to talk today about how the National SeaSim Line, or the SeaSim, may assist in reef restoration work. Our role is to provide marine experimental facilities to undertake all this work that's been discussed here today. And in the talks you'll see later on today and tomorrow, you'll see a lot of the work that's been conducted in SeaSim. So we claim to be the world's most sophisticated marine aquarium facility in the world. And I'm hopeful that by the end of the talk you might agree with me as well, and the ways we might be assisting your research. What I'll do is I'll just give a bit of background on the facility, the capabilities, some of the work we've supported and where we think we can assist in the future. So just quickly some numbers. The facility was built in 2012-13, operational in early 2014. $35 million provided by the federal government, $10 million worth of control systems. So we went to the industrial process control groups and took their control systems, gives us better control over various parameters we're looking at. 80 kilometres of pipe work. Each day, currently we're pumping about 900,000 litres of water a day. We have capacity up to 3 million litres of water, and that's highly filtered here. We try and provide really high quality, consistent seawater to all our experimental systems. 400 aquarium tanks. I just had a request recently, so that number's outdated. Thanks to Kate Quigley, fantastic effort, just put an experimental request in for another 140 tanks for a spawning work later on this year. Over 3,000 square metres of floor space in the SeaSim itself, but within the whole precinct, probably another 1,500 square metres, so probably about 4,500 square metres in the facility. Well over 500 different aquarium lighting systems, and we house a range of organisms: corals, sponges, fish, forams, you name it, we'll look after for you. So what makes the SeaSim different from most marine aquarium facilities? So the first one was we went through a really comprehensive process of prototyping and testing. 3 staff members went around the world to find out the best systems, the best knowledge, best technology to employ and bring back to Ames and put into the SeaSim. So as I mentioned, industrial scale process control system. Now, David mentioned previously that he worked in large power stations. We have more inputs and outputs in terms of our control system than those power stations. So every experiment, every tank is monitored continuously 24/7, and that's all through the control system we have. That enables us to really precisely control water quality parameters. So some of the things that, the temperature, PCO2, sediments, salinity, nutrients, contaminants, so with really tight tolerances around those. Over the last couple of years, we've developed full solar spectrum lights. So the advent of LEDs has enabled us to create full solar spectrum with the ability to manipulate that spectrum. So we can now create changes in spectrum that you might see in the field, whether through dredging, changes in water depth and other conditions. All those are completely dynamic, so it can be real-time changes. So our PCO2, as you can see down the bottom there, we do the diel, we make diel changes. We have seasonal temperature, we can have lunar patterns in lighting, water movement. So all of those can be manipulated to provide fully dynamic control. I have to big shout out for our staff. Our staff are amazing. So we have engineers, we have programmers, we have control techs, instrument techs, and they're all there to support and help with the research that people are talking about today. And the other one is that we're based in Townsville and Ames, so we have the proximity of the reef, world-class labs, workshops. All this together provides a fairly compelling package. So what does this capability enable us to do? So we're able to simulate future states under a changing climate. We can provide systems that will mimic what we expect in the year 2050, the year 2100. As I mentioned, we recreate those natural cycles, whether it's seasonal temperature, daily PCO2, pH, daily seasonal lunar lighting patterns. We can replicate more accurately conditions that you'd expect to find in the field, more real-life conditions. Dynamic sediment dosing. We've done a lot of work with the dredging industry to recreate those systems. Spectral lighting shifts. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about those. So this enables us to run longer experiments. We can maintain conditions that help keep healthy reef organisms. So some of our experiments will run 3 to 5 years. It means we can run multi-generational studies, so all the transgenerational adaptation experiments, we can manage and maintain those. We can run larger systems, we can provide you more treatments, more replication. We have really tight control of that, and it's monitored continuously, as I mentioned, and provides conditions closer to the real world. So I'll just cover off some of the research that we've done to date. So in the 4 years we've been operational, we've conducted over 170 experiments. As I mentioned, the duration of those, anywhere between a week to 5 years. We have a lot of collaborators working with AIM staff, so over 65% of all experiments we've been conducting in the facility have external collaborators. Those collaborators come from 18 different international organisations and 12 national organisations. This has resulted in 75 publications to date. And some of the research being conducted has real impact. So the work I mentioned on dredging has now fed into dredging operations. The research being conducted supports a number of priority areas. So reef restoration adaptation, which you have heard quite a bit about in the last couple of days and more in the next couple of days. Dredging, climate change, ocean acidification, marine diseases, pests, ecotoxicology, emerging contaminants, and water quality. So we have a variety of different systems, different spaces that enable us to support all this research. So some of the projects that we've conducted today at the SeaSim, again you'll hear more about it in the next couple of days. Large-scale multi-generational studies in mesocosm. So we have 2 mesocosm systems. So each system has 9 3,000 litre tanks. Each of those systems are completely independent in terms of control of temperature, lighting, pH. Work in assisted gene flow, hybridisation, modification of algal symbionts, the role of holobones, so on and so forth, and sexual reproduction in corals. So one of the key activities that we undertake each year is coral spawning. We're fortunate in Townsville that we have inshore coral spawning in October, then again in November. It's probably the busiest time of the year for us. We're generally over 100% occupancy. We have to double up experiments in rooms. We bring in from the reef rabbit colonies, over 200 colonies each year. They go back to the reef again spawning. To date, over 20 different species, ranging from acroporids, babids, parietes. We have a variety of different larval rearing systems. So Peter has described some of them previously. They range in size from 1 to 2 litres, 15 litres, 60 up to 400, and we would like to trial some systems around 10,000 litres. So depending on what your research questions are, there are larval rearing systems to satisfy those. We probably have greater than 15 million larvae go through the facility each year supporting that research. So as Peter described, there's an order of magnitude fewer than what we need, but we've managed to scale it up. This is much greater than what we've ever done previously. And again, this supports a whole range of research that we've been able previously. So where to now? So we still want to keep supporting that reef restoration adaptation research we have in the past, but we think that SeaSim has a role to play in assisting some of the other research. And the reason we believe that is that, as Peter's mentioned, he's come up with a concept for a large-scale aquaculture production, but it needs to be scaled, it needs to be tested, it needs to be prototyped. Now, we can leverage off our control systems, because those type of production systems are going to require sophisticated controls. We can leverage off the existing infrastructure we have, the delivery of high-quality seawater, the expertise we have in coral husbandry. So we would like to leverage all those activities to further the research. So Peter's mentioned on a number of occasions out-of-season spawning, and this has been something we've been hoping to do for quite a few years, so we're looking to kick that off later on this year. Currently, we only have one spawning event per year, so that creates bottlenecks in terms of development of research. You only have that one opportunity each year for your research ideas. If we have out-of-season spawning, that gives you multiple opportunities throughout the year, so the rate of development of your research increases dramatically. But also, it means we have limited production output. If we can produce the same number of corals multiple times a year, we've massively increased our production output. That's where we would hope to be in the next couple of years. Okay. So we'd like to be involved in like the prototyping and testing of large-scale aquaculture facilities. Like I said, AIMS researchers have the background and knowledge in specialist broodstocks, so selective breeding, transgenerational adaptation. We want to develop the husbandry methods to maintain those. We are currently small scale, it's not overly sophisticated, very labour intensive, limited genotypes in airtime aquaculture. We need to get it to an industrial scale, we need specialist broodstock, we need increased genetic diversity, increased husbandry, improved diet and husbandry. We've skipped through a few of them, but we're going to look at start developing some of those systems. How do we scale these up? What are the systems required to scale them up? Extraordinarily slow. So, and you've seen some of these diagrams Peter has had in his presentation. So we want to also look at starting integrating some of those productions. So there's a lot of groups working on individual components through this. We need to integrate all those components. We would like to, as I said, leverage off the systems we have to start integrating these so that we can combine sexual and asexual propagation, look at how we integrate deployment methods. And that's what we're talking about, the choco blocks. I hadn't heard that one previously. And the deployment models, how we integrate all those things together. So I've been told to hurry up. So just in conclusion, look, we've got to continue supporting and ongoing developing reef restoration work. We want to look at developing our sporting capabilities, prototyping coral aquaculture facilities, designing and prototyping integrated production systems. Ultimately, keen to hear from anyone out there who has a research idea that we might be able to assist with. We'd love to work with you to improve your research. Thank you.